You're watching Monday's Not Just Crew.
Well, welcome everybody to the latest edition of Not Just Crew, our Monday night special. And today I'm pleased to announce on this evening show, we have Arpad Szakal, who is an executive search and leadership assessment professional and a former aviation lawyer. Now, he's based in London. Now, we are fortunate to have Arpad on this evening's show. Now, very shortly, we will be going through 15 points of an article that Arpad wrote and displayed some time ago now, and it's all to do with crew leverage and skills and how you can transfer all those skills you've obtained throughout your flying career, ultimately into so many different professions. So I do apologize for the video quality initially, because it is a little bit, I think Arpad's signal wasn't the best down where he was. So, but listen to the content, listen to the questions, and listen to the 15 key points, because honestly, these will go a long way in your progression, in your search to find the career that you wish to find. Okay, so joining me on this evening's show, we have Arpad Szakal and the one and only, yes, you guessed it, Trevor Jenkins.
Welcome to Monday's Not Just Crew. Well, we think we've got quite a special one for you today. We have Arpad Szakal. He's got an amazing background. As I say, sometimes in Not Just Crew, we sort of want to look outside the industry and different areas of it. So I'm very pleased that he's going to join us. As I say, he's got quite a background, anything from law to the Royal Aeronautical Society even. So I'm so pleased to be joining us. Joining me also today is my friend and colleague, Simon Costello. So listen, I'm going to bring the guys straight in, and we can ask them, hopefully, some very poignant questions. So here, I'll welcome to my team today. There you go.
Hi, guys.
Hi, it's Simon and
Hi,
Arpad.
everyone.
Once again, thank you so much for joining us. Arpad, I say, we've got about 1,000,001 questions, but we sort of go straight into it and try and sort of slow it down so we can get a real feel of what you do. Your CV is quite, or resume, as they say to our American viewers, it goes on for miles. You're a member of the Air and Space sort of Society and law, the Royal Aeronautical Society, the Aviation Club UK, the Air League, and I say the list goes on and on. And I say at the moment, and I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong, you're an executive search consultant, and I'm hopefully going to tell us what that means and correct me if I've got that wrong. Thanks for joining us. Listen, just tell us a bit about your background and how you even got into this industry. I say because you're also a qualified lawyer.
Yeah. No, again, thank you for having me, and great to be here with you and share some of my experience. I'm originally from Budapest, Hungary, but have been living in the UK for quite a number of years. I qualified as a lawyer. I'm an aviation lawyer by background. That's what I practiced for about 4 or 5 years in London, mainly on the aviation insurance liability side of things. That's my specialty. And back in 2014, January, that's when I transitioned into recruitment first, like contingency recruitment, and then later, a year later, into retained executive search, which is essentially filling roles, specific needs at organizations who have need for very often very senior, sort of mid to senior executives in a particular business unit. Can be HR, legal, finance, operations, whatever you can think of. Basically, it's global. What we do is servicing clients all the way from Bogota to Bangkok, all the way down to Brisbane. So it has a global remit. Aviation and aerospace is part of what we do. but it's not limited to it. It's what we do is industrial, which is everything from energy, renewables, broader transportation, so things like road, rail, ports, airports. So it's a broad range of things, but it keeps us on our feet, and it gives us a really broad spectrum on the globe. Basically, what's happening.
Wow, that is quite. So how did you get? What sort of led you into this industry? As I say, you practice as a lawyer, specialising in aviation. But what drew you into that speciality in the first place?
It's my love for aviation. I wanted to be a pilot, to be honest with you. But then mathematics, physics, and my eyesight were not on my side, and
Oh no.
I had to combine aviation with something. My dad is a lawyer, and that's what I saw all my life. And then aviation law. Is there something like aviation law? Yes, there is. London is the place to do that, and then that's how I ended up basically there. That's the story. Back in 2020, when the pandemic started, I started to receive quite a lot of messages, emails from contacts in the industry, both cabin crew and pilots. They were seeking advice on their CVs. They were obviously thinking about what if this thing lasts for more than a couple of months. And that's how my coaching journey and all that started. I'm part of an organization called Center for Aviation Psychologists, which are basically helping pilots and also cabin crew on the psychological, mental well-being, peer support, things like that. And I lead their career-specific coaching stuff for them as well. So it's a good mix between search, which is of course very methodical, very data-driven, very draining, to be honest with you, and it's helping people and really just guiding candidates on the job search, career transition side of things, which I have been very much enjoying over the past.
Yeah, we've certainly seen these changes over 2 years, as you mentioned earlier. From the UK's point of view, it was literally 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and at the time, being a bit selfish, it was a very welcome break for me because I was absolutely shattered from flying. It was very, very sunny here in the UK, and I had a lovely garden to enjoy, which I thought would be 2 weeks. Here we are, literally 2 years later, and although it was quite devastating for the globe, at the same time, it's changed a lot of crews' perception about what they can do and what they can't do. As I say, when Simon and I set up this channel, you know, our mailbox was full of crew saying, what can we do with our jobs? We're only trained to be cabin crew. And that's, of course, when we realise they can do a lot more than that. So I want to hand over to you because I know you've got a couple of questions there.
Yeah, I mean, Arpad, myself and Trevor have known for a very long time, and it was quite evident when we joined the airlines back in the 90s, because we've met so many crew, we've got so many friends who obviously joined the airline as cabin crew, but they were qualified in so many different areas. Some went to university, some got degrees and masters, but they chose to follow the pathway of cabin crew. A lot of them stayed as cabin crew.
Yep.
A lot of them left and went on to totally different areas, whether it become a paramedic, a firefighter, lawyers, artists, musicians. So this is something that we've known for quite a while, that that cabin crew already have these skills and transferable skills, and it's always been an eye-opener. And this is why Trevor created Not Just Crew 2 years ago, because he wanted to showcase and highlight how amazing cabin crew are and just what the skills that they possess, and they're so transferable into so many different areas. Now, what I want to ask you is that, did you have an idea before you started like exploring more in depth and the psychology of kind of cabin crew's mindset and stuff? Did you kind of have an idea that cabin crew were capable of going on and doing different things, or like, you know, and could like reach for the stars basically?
I did a rough idea, to be honest with you. I think it's not something that many of them think about, to be honest with you, because they don't have to. I think it's a job that most people enjoy. It's something that they would like to pursue over the longer term. And I think a lot of people just don't really understand what transferable skills are. What is the definition of it? I think it's if you allow me, that's a good place for us to start. I think to just understand or define what it is. Transferable skills, according to my understanding, they're skills that you can actually build on and develop throughout your career. Basically, they tend to benefit both the candidate and also the employer in a variety of different ways. They are portable. Basically, they can be taken with you wherever you move. If you move jobs or even industries, you can take them with you as you progress through your career. They are flexible. They allow flexibility for you. They will make you attractive as a candidate for a range of companies outside of aviation as well, in different sectors. And they make you really stand out from the other applicants that didn't have the exposure that you had as cabin crew. I think it's basically it gives you a lot of options as well. I think there are a myriad of skills that you pick up as a cabin crew. I think a lot of people don't think about it, again, because they don't have to. But I think it would be really helpful for us to really just spell them out, so that people can really identify and really just realize that, yeah, I've got that. I think I can sell that, and I can position myself as really someone who is valuable beyond my day-to-day sort of duties and responsibilities for my airline, basically, that I'm currently being furloughed from, or basically in between jobs. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, look, Arpad, please stay with us. We're just going to go across to a couple of messages, and then please stay with us. And everyone else, please join us in a couple of minutes.
Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and we are pleased to still have on our show the amazing Arpad and Trevor Jenkins. So what I kind of want to touch on is the 15 points that you did put down on the paper that you wrote a while ago, to highlight some of those transferable skills that the crew do possess. Now, note number 1 is all about initiative and leadership. So if you could just describe a little bit about what crew possess as transferable skills when it comes to initiative and leadership.
Yeah, I think this is one of the key ones that you really need to highlight when you're applying for a role, both inside or outside the sector. As a flight attendant, you really need to demonstrate that you have great enthusiasm, you have the ability to take ownership and responsibility to find quick and very effective solutions, basically to very unexpected problems. You need to have the ability to take charge, to offer perspective to your colleagues, but also to the passengers. And I think this ability to lead people, this, especially as a senior member of cabin crew, this is one of the things that you can really take to other roles. Everyone is looking for initiative. Everyone is looking for leadership experience. And it's really up to you how you portray yourself or how you position yourself and what sort of specific examples you can highlight under this heading, basically. So it's really important. One of the things that are really overlooked by a lot of cabin crew out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, go on, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen on board of an aircraft, and especially if you're on board a plane for 12 hours, a lot of problems can arise, and you have to take the initiative. I mean, I can give some examples. You might have about 20 different problems on board at any one time, and it's having to prioritize which is the most important problem to solve first, because that person who might be in front of you might be a little bit more impatient than the others. So it's quite important to kind of categorize them and work out, right, let's get that one sorted out first, keep them happy. I can move on to the next passenger. It's all these things going on in your mind at 100 miles an hour that you have the skill set to prioritize and deal with that situation in a split second, basically. Now we've also got
exactly, and there are very few other jobs that requires that kind of thinking on your feet and really just making really quick critical decisions. Basically, I think it's just a really good skill to have, and will give you the edge over others who haven't had the opportunity to practice it.
Yeah, and also when other crew on board the aircraft see you dealing with those problems in that particular way, it's kind of taken the lead, because they can see how amazing you are at dealing with that. They kind of like learn from you, and they kind of like they can take like information, and they can process it. They can go, actually, that's really good way of dealing with that situation. And obviously you're passing those skills on to the other crew members, and you're leading in a way, but you're not actually standing forward and saying, look, this is how you do it. People see how effective it is, how you dealt with that problem, and the people will copy you. It's you taking the lead. You're leading by example, basically. So this leads me on to keynote number 2, where we have customer experience mindset. So if you could just run through a few of the points there.
Yeah, this is huge. At the end of the day, as cabin crew or flight attendant, you are the face of the airline. You are the brand ambassador for your career. Yeah. And I think it's really important that you understand that you're dealing with customers or clients all the time. You understand their needs, expectations. It's very different from, of course, the vacationer or the holiday maker to the one who is an overworked executive, someone who has deadlines to meet. I think it's wherever you have worked on the aircraft, whether it was economy, business first, you've developed this unique set of skills, basically, which is essentially managing expectations and dealing with often unexpected, challenging conditions and situations. Basically, so this customer obsession is highly sought after. A lot of companies, from Amazon to Google, everyone is basically asking for it. So really important to bear that in mind and really just highlight this when you have an interview, and come up with specific examples where you can demonstrate this customer experience mindset.
Absolutely. And just as Arpad had described there, you are the brand. When you've got that uniform on, they're looking at you, whichever airline, whichever company you're working for. I mean, I work for the ambulance service now. You are representing the company. And specifically when you are flying and you're flying to certain destinations, you might be going to a holiday destination. You've got all your holiday makers very excited, a lot of children. And then you could be doing a JFK where you've got so many business travelers on board that aircraft. Now you have that unique ability to kind of transform yourself to communicate with the business passengers at their level. You're very formal. You know that they just want the service, and it needs to be immaculate. They probably don't want to have much conversation because they've got lots of work to do on board the aircraft. A lot of business. Whereas on different flights, you've got lots of time with holiday makers to kind of communicate and share stories and share that experience with those passengers on board. Amazing skills, so many things that you don't even know that you possess, but they all come with experience.
Absolutely,
Right. No,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And again, I'd just like to sort of interject there. Everything you just, because I'm reading through your paper as well now, but it's so true. So many companies, whether it be retail, on the phone, customer is king at the moment. And I think crew seem to do it in such a genuine way as well, rather than just sort of, have a nice day. They really sort of show interest in what the customer actually want and is actually asking for. And they've also got quite a good way to relay that up to the upper management as well. They're literally on the front line, which we absolutely love. This next one, I'll take it, Si, because I'm going to pass it over to you anyway. First aid and safety skills. A massive, so many crew have this skill, but they don't realize it when they're applying for new roles, different careers. It sort of speaks for itself, but tell us what you meant.
It's I mean, you obviously attend as crew, you obviously attend these regular safety and first aid trainings. It's actually a practical skill that is appreciated by a lot of employers out there. And I think what it demonstrates is really your ability to deal with pressure and to work under pressure, which is basically everyone is looking for this, no matter the industry or the employer or the job. It's basically, it can really be the differentiator between someone who hasn't had the experience to essentially save someone's life on board, whereas you have probably, or maybe even if it hasn't been a life-saving sort of situation, you dealt with unexpected situations, you had to keep your cool. That's what people are looking for, really, someone who's confident, someone who can act reassuringly. A lot of customer experience or customer facing roles require this, basically. Again, irrespective of the sector, irrespective of the employer, this will be valued, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and there's one thing before I bring Simon in. The reason I wanted to introduce this particular one from your paper was that even when Simon used these skills as airline crew to go across into the ambulance service, he found that the actual ambulance service was in fact overly sort of impressed with his communication skills, talking to passengers. I mean, Simon's just recently filming with the BBC for 999 ambulance. He's going to tell us more about it in a moment. But Si, I mean, on previous ones, you've told us how they thought, wow, you speak to patients very differently than how, say, people recruited outside the industry have been.
Yeah, well, firstly, I mean, the first aid aspect when it comes to aviation cabin crew, the training is unbelievable. They just cover so many different scenarios. You know, you've got cardiac arrest, you've got simple faints, you've got childbirth. You know, you're taught how to operate the defib. You know, the training is just so widespread and in depth. When I went through the 12 years of training with the airline and transferred over to the ambulance service, I found the training for the airline was more in depth, more and better communicated. Basically, the training was a lot better, and than what it was in the initial training aspect of the ambulance service. So all the things that we were covering when I made that transfer was all there that I've been taught over the last 12 years. Unbelievable. And also in many other different workplaces, people who are looking to recruit, it's a massive tick in the box if you have first aid training. They love that at work. Health and Safety at Work Act. If they've got like active first aiders coming to work for their company, they love it. They love it. They embrace it because, you know, it's just such a key quality. And safety skills, when you're going through procedures, like, you know, on board an aircraft, covering all these safety procedures, you are structured. You can follow instructions. You know how to deal with situations like what you were saying, Arpad. And that ability, when you are with a patient, to communicate and to get information from them and just talk to them with empathy, understanding, is paramount. It's priceless. It goes such a long way when you are dealing with a patient. It's practically 60% of getting the trust of that person who needs you at that moment in time, and it's just such an amazing skill that you all have as cabin crew.
Yeah, absolutely. Which takes us on to the next one, which is slightly different.
Or the other way.
No, the other one, which is next one on the line, is conflict management. So you're going to the other end of the scale here, from being very empathetic and sympathetic to all of a sudden being assertive. Now, this is always quite an interesting one from cabin crew because, and it's not all the time, but sometimes, say in first class, for example, you have very high-powered executives, and let's be frank, they're used to sort of getting their own way. Then all of a sudden they can have, say, a 19-year-old giving them sort of orders, not in a horrible way. It's part of our secure checks, getting ready for takeoff, and that does cause friction sometimes, especially if the executives have, say, had a particularly hard week, and you know, all of a sudden they're being barked these orders. Tell us a bit more about the conflict management.
Yeah, the unruly passenger, every crew's
Yeah.
nightmare
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
scenario. It's basically the occasionally angry, intoxicated passenger on the first or business class of the aircraft. That's basically dealing with them because, yeah, I mean, very often, as you pointed out, it's the ego is huge. They're not exactly low on it. So
That's true.
I think it's really spotting issues, conflicts arising, and diffusing them, even before it bubbles over or arises. And of course, doing this at 30,000 feet in the middle of the night. I mean, it takes some nerves, I think, and not everyone will have this. So, in any customer-facing role, these skills are highly valued, and I think you really need to be blind, not to see what someone who's. I mean, let's be honest, guys. I mean, it's basically when it comes to someone who trained at British Airways, Emirates, Cathay Pacific, whichever airline, but even low cost carriers. I mean, in terms of safety standards and training standards, they're all the same. So if you've been through that, you are unbelievably good when it comes to like, by the way, conflict management is very closely linked with our next point, the problem solving skills, spotting unforeseen situations on a daily basis, dealing with surprising and very unpredictable human behavior. I think that's really, it's an essential skill that any organization would love to have at any level. And by the way, I've seen crew transitioning into a lot of junior to mid-level roles, but also quite a lot of them go into quite senior roles as well, basically in project program management, things like that. So things that you don't immediately associate the role with. So it's all about how you sell it, how you position it, and how you present it at your next interview, really.
Yeah, actually, I'm so glad you mentioned that because we've seen this a fair few times on Not Just Crew. Two scenarios. The first one, crew applying for the lowest level job or career change, and then within a few weeks they're being encouraged to actually apply for the management role. So we've seen that so many times. And also the other one of our previous guests, literally cabin crew, and she literally she teaches rocket scientists now. She goes through their skills, and so we've seen this and authors, business coaches. We've seen this a lot. So I'm so glad you've mentioned that one. So I'm sure you've got something to interject there.
No, it's just basically when all of these points that you've got, Arpad, are brilliant because it takes me back to a moment on board at any one time. Conflict management, that used to happen so many times, whether it was like, people were like throwing racism in at you. Yeah. You had intoxicated passengers. Obviously, that one happened so many times. It's just how you are as an individual. It's so important not to stand there and put a barrier up between you and that individual. Yes, you are the face of the company with that uniform on, but it's very important to let that person in and communicate you on a human level. You have to have that connection. It's important to gain that connection with that person who's in front of you. You've got to let them in to a degree. You've got to get that common interest. You've got to kind of get that person on side. You've got to get them to trust you so they can actually listen to what you're saying, because a lot of the times they don't want to listen to you. They just want, they want what they want, and you're going to get it for them. But once you get that those barriers broke down, you can get that person on your side, and you can kind of like work around it, and you can come to an understanding. And sometimes it gets to a point where they've even forgot what they were actually complaining about, because you and that person have made that connection. And it's weird. All of a sudden, they're your friend. And it's like, that's one of the things I used to love so much about being cabin crew. The worst situation that was in front of you 5 minutes ago, and you were like, all of a sudden, how is this person like doing what I'm asking them to do? It's just such an amazing ability and a skill that you have as cabin crew: conflict management and problem solving skills.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Listen, guys, I've got the producers shouting in my ear. We're going to go to a break. Arpad, thank you so much. Please stay with us, and everyone else stay with us as well. Back to Monday's Not Just Crew with Arpad Szakal, and he's written this most brilliant paper, and we will put a description down below, on the 15 key transferable skills for cabin crew. Now, as we said earlier, we've done so many programs before talking about your transferable skills, but I don't think anyone's put them together in such a dynamic way, which will really help crew for your CVs and also your confidence in going for interviews or career changes. Right, I'm going to bring the chaps back in. There you go. Welcome back, gents. Arpad, thank you so much for staying with us. So we're talking about your paper. It's something you've put together and very impressive, actually. And I know you've written several other papers. But listen, let's go into your number 6, adaptability and flexibility, which again, crew know, and it should sort of speak for itself. But there's so much more to it than that. Could you run through that one with us?
Yeah. In your line of work as cabin crew, it's basically it's imperative that you have the personal qualities of being adaptable, flexible. I mean, your schedule can change in a minute. Although you receive your roster a few weeks in advance, it's important that you keep your diary free in case you may be required to stand by or be available and fly on short notice to cover other people's sickness or major issues. Very few people, if you think about it, have the same sort of flexibility and adaptability as you guys need to have. Someone who's constantly traveling, has to adapt to different environments quickly. You're also working with people who you never really worked or met before, so you need to instantly build up rapport, trust, credibility with your co-workers, although you haven't met before. I think this is something that a lot of people don't really know and think about. These teams, they get together at like 5 or 4 a.m. in the morning, they see each other for the first time, and they act and work like they've been working together for the past 15 years on a daily basis. I think that's something that is overlooked both by cabin crew themselves, but also by employers or potential employers of crew. I think that sort of extreme adaptability and flexibility, I think it's not well understood outside of the aviation circles, I think. But correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what I've been experiencing.
Yeah, no need for a correction there. You're absolutely right, and on board. We've noticed so many times when sort of customers have said, "Oh, do you crew work with each other all the time?" And that they literally see, and they, as you say, they won't really notice. They literally see a group of people, and you may have flown with 1 or 2 of them before, but you'll never get exactly the same crew twice, especially on the big long haul companies. But from a customer point of view, they think we've known each other for literally years, when in reality, as you say, we met just over an hour previously during the briefing. So it's quite, I mean, sure, Simon, I'm sure you found exactly the same.
So like what I'm going to say is that if you do go for another job position and they do ask you about whether you showed the ability to adapt or you showed flexibility, then please use these as examples where like you're working with different people all the time. So you're having to adapt to different people's kind of work ethics. Also, if you are on standby, you might have just packed for a one-nighter because you think you're just going to get called for a one-nighter. Or in an occasion that I had, I ended up doing a 5-night Mauritius. And so like, you've got to work out kind of like, right, okay, then so I'm not going to be back for another 6 days. So you have to sort out your personal life as well, especially if you've got families. So all these short notice decisions and actions that you have to take, use all the experiences that you've gone through within your flying career. New people to work with all the time. Destinations changing on a sixpence. You've been taken off a flight to do a totally different destination because that happens. You get rolled over from a flight. All these times where like you'll be in a briefing and you think you're used to a bunch of crew, and you've had that 1 hour with them, and all of a sudden you're taken out of that environment. You have to go on another flight, and you're working with a whole other bunch of crew, and everybody's looking at you thinking, who are you? You went in the briefing room, you're a new face, and then you have to try and win them over again. Adaptability and flexibility, all these skills that you possess where you can just put yourself in a whole alien environment and make it work for you and interact with other people and to get the job done that you need to get done at that time. They're very adaptable.
Yeah, you sold that one to me, Si. Yeah, I totally agree. And Arpad, in fact, I'd like to sort of ask you another question on this. And in fact, the whole paper. Where did you go to do your research for this whole endeavor?
I spoke to about 15, 20 different crews, basically just asking them about their experiences, asking them about what are the sort of requirements, what are the what do they feel are the skills that they developed doing this job over many years, and this is the result of that. So it's going from one crew to the other who were willing to share with me some of their experiences, basically, and hear it from the horse's mouth. Really, I think that's probably the best way to do any research. Yeah.
Well, they certainly got it spot on, which leads us to number 7. Si, do you want to introduce this one?
Yeah, number 7, very good one. It's a big one. This one: empathy, compassion, and emotional intelligence. So, run us through that one, please, Arpad.
Yeah, it's also something that is very often overlooked. You're dealing with cabin crew, with other crew members, but also passengers. They all have their own needs, feelings. You never know what they've been through the previous day. So basically, you need to be able to anticipate their requirements, their needs, attend to them immediately, and basically, this sort of the empathy, the compassion, the EQ that you develop on the job, this is second to none. I think there are very few positions out there that require that sort of the patience, the understanding that at 2 a.m. over the Pacific Islands between Sydney and Los Angeles, dealing with irate passengers, unruly passengers. I think very few people realize what really the true meaning of empathy, compassion, and emotional intelligence is until they think about the role deeply. That's my sort of take on this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things about being cabin crew is that you encounter and meet so many different people, and everybody has a story. Everybody's got a backstory. People sometimes are struggling at home. Some people are struggling at work. And I'm not just talking about crew, I'm talking about passengers as well. I'll take one example.
Yeah.
I remember one gentleman who was flying back from Hong Kong, and he was sitting in upper class, and we were made aware that he was traveling home because his family had all passed away in a terrible road traffic collision, and he was going back to have to deal with that. Now, even though that didn't, we weren't involved in that, we as crew, as a human, you can't help but feel for these people. People are traveling for certain reasons, and you value life so much, and it's just hard to comprehend what somebody is actually going through. So like on a human level, it's a skill that you have as crew, as a person, because you meet so many unbelievable people who are struggling. Now, you might have undergone a lot of problems in your life as well, where you can offer your help and guidance and support and your like kind of your advice and try and help other people out. When you're talking to somebody and you're sharing an interest, a common interest, you can't help but feel, if in that moment in time, like the empathy, the compassion. If you can help in any way, shape or form, or make somebody feel a little bit easier in that situation, then that's just what you do. That's just how you are as a person, as crew. You have that skill, that ability to kind of like be the most important person to whoever you're talking to at that moment in time. It's something that you have inside of you. It's it's a great skill to have.
Yeah, definitely. Which takes us nicely on to number 8, stress tolerance and the ability to work well under pressure. I mean, that sort of collectively sort of joins together a few, but just run us through anything we may have missed.
I think it goes without saying, being a cabin crew or flight attendant, if you're listening in from the States, it's a very physical job. A lot of people don't realize that, and it's a very stressful one. I mean, you're dealing with the situations, basically flight delays, full loads, difficult, demanding passengers, or even crew conflicts. It's very often the case that basically there is some tension between various crew members. You need to be able to accept criticism, to deal with basically rude people. I mean, there are plenty of them flying around, and deal with high stress situations on a daily basis effectively. Basically, I think it's your ability to let go will serve you well in whatever role you're going to be doing next, whether it's going to be with an airline or or outside of the industry. No matter where you land, it will come handy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
I've got to say, this paper that you've written, it's a little bit like a therapy session.
Yeah,
it's
feeling very relaxed here.
If any crew are out there wondering what their crew leveraging skills are, please go through these 15 points. Go through this paper, because you will remember all, like when you go through all these points, a specific moment. You remember loads, to be honest, but you remember what you did to kind of turn that situation around. You'll always have an example. Now, stress tolerance and ability to work well under pressure, straight away, one of them that comes to mind is a classic case of homophobia by one member of crew and another member of crew. And as a supervisor, you're in the middle of it all, and you're having to deal with both sides of it. Now, you know what's right and you know what's wrong, but there's a way of dealing with that situation on board the aircraft to make sure that there's no conflict on board, and the job has to be completed to get to where you need to be. Otherwise, it's going to hit the fan. But you still have to address it. You've got to deal with it. And these are all stresses that you're undergoing as a supervisor, because that's your job. You've got to deal with it, and it's not easy. And these are all stresses that are building up on top of the job that you're already doing to getting the service completed, on top of somebody's entertainment problems, on top of a meal choice problem. You might have about 20, 30 different problems at any one time, but you're having to deal with them all. Now, it's a stress, and it can cause you like anxious moments. But these are all things, once you land and you get off that plane and you can just unload, and you kind of go home and you think, how on earth did I get through that flight and deal with it? It's a miracle. I swear to God, it's a miracle. I don't think that you can even achieve that in any other line of work, you know, especially like you know, in any other like aspect career. It's just one of those things that you have as cabin crew inside of you to get the job done.
Yeah. Totally agree with that one. And I say, going back to something Simon said, your paper literally encompasses everything that we've been speaking about over the pretty much the last 2 years, or coming up to the 2 years. Right, number 9, sales skills. Now, interesting one for me. And Simon used to do a bit of sales as well. When I sort of first read this, it's not, as a supervisor as well in a flight, you've also got to sell the actual flight to the crew, i.e. it's going to be a nice day out, you're going somewhere else. How do you see this sales skills?
A lot of airlines are introducing now paid onboard service, even the full service airlines, the BAs, the Virgins, the Cathay Pacifics, even the Emirates of the world. So it's depending on the airline, you will have had sales targets to meet, and I think it's basically, it's a really important one, because sales skills, no matter the industry, again, it will come handy whatever you decide to do, whether you stay in the industry, you go outside of the industry, extremely useful. And of course, with sales comes the influencing skills, the ability to really communicate effectively. I mean, that's going to be point number 10. The communication, the interpersonal skills, the effective communication. I mean, it's really to get your point across proficiently, promptly, advising passengers on whether it's emergency procedures or any other information that needs to be relayed on clearly. So it's really handy because it's not only sales, it's influencing, it's decision making. It's basically if you want to go into real estate, if you want to go to develop your own business. I mean, it's business development. I mean, what is it? It's picking up the phone, getting on with people, developing and trust, credibility. I mean, you need to be likable. I mean, the sales is so multifaceted, and you do that unknowingly as cabin crew on a daily basis. Really, it's whether you're working at Ryanair selling scratch cards, or you work at BA advising the first class passengers on the wine selection, on the food selection. I mean, it's all advisory sales. I think it's again how you think about it, how you position it, and how you sell it in your next interview.
Yeah, I think it's very important to be honest as well and know your product when it comes to sales, and that's what you do as cabin crew. As long as you've got a good history and your good knowledge about the airline that you work for, when people are asking for your, when they've got questions about your airline, the upper class lounge for starters, you know, or the Trev, what was the name of the lounge where you went after you landed? It was
Revivals.
The Revivals Lounge. Know your product. Have a really good sound knowledge of all things to do that's related to before the flight, after the flight, that passengers, the frequent flyer program. You have to know about the product. It's very important because once the passenger asks for your advice, you have to have a sound knowledge and be honest about it as well. I did a brief short spell about a year after I stopped flying in selling cars. So the ability to talk to a customer, to be honest about the product, to kind of like, just to like, you know, because they're very knowledgeable. Customers are so knowledgeable that they know more than what you think. So as long as you have a good sound knowledge and you're honest with them, then that's a really good skill to have. Know your product.
Absolutely, yeah. I say, and I mean, from your experience, do you think crew members literally make natural salespeople? Obviously, you can't speak for everyone, but you know, and it's more. I find it's more the influencer than the actual sales. Although sales are indirect, like just saying, "Oh, does this?" What when customers ask, "Oh, what do you think of this perfume or aftershave?" You know, they're very good influences in that respect. As I say, do you think crew make natural salespeople?
They do, and I think it's a lot of them don't realize it, but the empathy, the emotional intelligence, the trust, the credibility, and all those things that you need to build up in another person's mind. I think it's all the building blocks are all there, and the interpersonal skills, the team working skills, the cultural awareness, all those things that we're going to be talking about. You can't possibly do the job well if you don't apply those skills on a day-to-day basis. Basically. And the patience, I think that would be the adaptability, the flexibility. I think those things are also the ability to bounce back, take criticism. I mean, as a salesperson, all you do is getting punched in the face. I mean, it's basically that's your job, and your success will be determined by your ability to stand up and shake yourself and just go
absolutely.
Again.
Which takes us on nicely to number 10: communications and interpersonal skills. Again, a combination of many, but what's your take on it?
I think it's particularly important when it comes to emergencies. You know how to act, how to relay information to your team members, to passengers, plainly, effectively explain complex things. So where it really becomes relevant to other sectors. It's the ability to listen to the client's requests, respond to them in a timely manner, and I think it's basically just. Again, irrespective of the role that you are targeting or the industry, this will be critical. I think it's basically, it doesn't really matter what you do. It will come handy, basically. So,
yeah. So Simon, what's quickly bring Simon in. What's the difference between the communication skills of cabin crew and somebody, say, who works in your sector, in the emergency sector?
Communication, for me, it has to be clear. It has to be delivered in a way that people fully understand. No jargon, no technical terms. You have to communicate and make sure the person who you've communicated to understands what you're saying, because it's so easy just to say something and walk off, and then that person stood there going, what did they say again? And get it totally wrong. You have to communicate it in a clear way and make sure they understand what you're saying, and that's delivered vocally and through your body language. So it's a skill that you have, again, on board the aircraft, where communication is paramount. There's been so many times where we've been on board and there's been miscommunication and things have gone wrong. So you learn from your mistakes and you make sure everything's communicated clearly, especially in emergencies. Blow my neck.
You know?
Exactly.
I mean, I remember having a decompression on board the aircraft. I mean, that's why drills are so important. That's why there's the PAs are there, because they're clear, and you can take clear direction from that PA. There's going to be no mistakes. You deliver the PA as it should be. Communication is delivered as it should be. All skills that you've got as cabin crew.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Which neatly takes us into number 11, team working skills and cultural awareness. Arpad, over to you.
This is huge. This is huge, especially if you're working for one of the truly global airlines, like one of the Gulf carriers. You're dealing with people from different cultural backgrounds, religious backgrounds. I think it's your ability to build rapport easily with anyone. I think there are very few jobs out there which really requires you to be that culturally aware. And again, your ability to work effectively as part of a team. I think it's basically this is what every single job, whatever you look at, again, regardless of the industry, will specify that the work as a team, the ability to work with a diverse group of people, it's always in the top 10 sort of requirements. So this is, again, if you have a few examples of how you demonstrated your team working skills, I think you should be in top position to be one of the finalist candidates, basically. So yeah, huge one, really important one.
Absolutely. Team working skills, especially when you work in a crew 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, up to 17 when I was flying. You have to work, you have to be seen to be helping your work colleague out. You start working well within a team and they see that you are a hard team worker and you're there to offer your support when you might be finished on your side, but you get out there, you get on the other side, you help your colleague and they'll return the favor. It's infectious. Yeah. If you work well within a team, everybody wants to work as one because they see you working hard. Lead by, it goes to lead by example as well. And then everybody pulls together as a team. Culturally awareness, being culturally aware, especially when you're long haul, there's so many different places that you fly to: Lagos, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Jamaica, other Caribbeans, India.
Middle East.
You're dealing with so many different cultures. And when you've done so many flights, you know that they're all different. The passengers are very different people because that's just their culture. So you can adapt. You get used to how they talk to you. Sometimes on, like say, on a Lagos flight, and it's your first one, people used to get off the plane really upset, like, oh my God, they were so rude to me. They were so rude to me. The way it spoke to me, the way they hissed at me. It's their culture. Don't be offended by it. That's the way they communicate. It's absolutely fine. Or you'll go and do a Japan flight. They're very quiet. They sit there. They don't really ask for much. It's just being aware of how these different cultures are on board that aircraft. It's all skills that you possess, and you can take them into the real world in different jobs. And then when you are like in that environment, you can kind of adapt, and you can show your respect by adapting to their culture, and they take that as like a trust. You know, they take that as like an element of trust, because they can see that you've had experience in the past in their culture, and that goes a long way.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. Right, moving on, gentlemen. Right, Si, going to introduce the next one.
Right. Oh, right. Okay, then. This is probably one that I'll maybe struggle with. Okay.
That's why I gave it to you.
Thank you. Composure and self-control. Now, I'm going to keep it together. I'm not going to lose my temper. So explain about composure and self-control, Arpad.
I mean, you must keep your cool at all times. I think that's rule number one in this job. I think it's basically you can't possibly let your emotions loose. You need to keep your like any kind of behavior that is out of character is out of the question. I think it's basically, this is a valuable skill to have in any sort of life situation, particularly in high pressure managerial roles, by the way. So it's again really one of those skills that you develop on the job quite quickly. In fact, I think when it comes to screening potential cabin crew, I think this is one of the things that they look for. Is this person keeping this cool? How do you handle pressure? Do you tolerate someone who is angry, who is upset with you, who's throwing insults at you in the middle of the night? I think it's one of those really difficult. It's easier said than done, this one, but when it comes to actually practicing this, I think I would struggle. That would be my bet.
And I will totally agree with you, Arpad, on that one, because this is something that I have the ability to do it, but it's not that I didn't do it every time, because there'd been quite a lot of times where sometimes my emotions would get the better of me, especially if I was asking certain people to do certain things, and I'd deliver it quite calmly, and then after about 3 or 4 times, it wasn't getting done. Sometimes I could revert to a child. I'd go in a huff. I'd be disappointed. I would take it personally. I'd be offended that nobody's doing what I'm asking them to do. And composure and self-control is something that I didn't quite master consecutively. I could do it sometimes, depending on my emotions, but it wasn't my strongest point. What about you, Trev?
Well, funny you should say that. It depends on the time of day. If you've been up all night, you know, I call it the British officer syndrome. I don't know if you've ever seen the film Zulu. You know, their composure. No, the reason I say that their composure, they're just about to be attacked, and they're more. The way they came across was more concerned whether a soldier had their top button undone, even though they just had it. So that's self-control. You know, so, but yeah, again, it's something we've all need to master, I suppose. Again, shift work, your mood is going to be very differently at 3 o'clock in the morning when you've been up all day as well than it is if you've had a really, really good night's rest. So yeah, I think lots to learn. I think that's an ongoing lesson there. Si, going on to number 13. Time management and organization skills. Again, should speak for itself, but anything you like to add, Arpad?
I'm still getting over composure and self-control here.
Well, yeah, we've moved on now. Control yourself. Yeah. We're on this one now. So yeah, time management and
when it comes to time management, organization. Yeah, I think it's basically like you're delivering meals. You have customer issues to deal with. You have potential emergencies. I mean, there are time constraints on flights. Some are short, some are long. You must be able to prioritize. But even in your daily life, I mean, there are a few roles out there that require you to be really disciplined and organized in your own daily life. You have to be standby from time to time. You have to really be able to go to work at the last minute. So very, very few roles out there in the real world outside of aviation or shipping or wherever time management and organization skills is such an important thing is required. I think, again, for most roles, this type of almost military type of time management and organization skills will not be required, not be necessary. But I think you've got it as a crew, and I think you really need to be able to just effectively convey it on paper, whether it's your CV or cover letter or your interview. I think, again, a lot of education needs to go into this because people outside of the industry have no idea.
Yeah.
Time management's massive in the airline industry. I mean, you have to be there on time for your briefing, to read all your notices. There's a plane taken off at a certain time, and organizational skills as well. It's like, I know for a fact, when in the line of work that I do now, time management, I'm always early. I hate being late. It's because I'm not used to it. I'm always there before I need to sign on. And I like to be organized as well. And these are all skills that I got from being cabin crew, because you just need to know where things are. You need to have your passport. You need to have your ID. That needs to be in check. You need to be well groomed. You need to have all the right things with you. You know, you need to, all the things that you have on board, whatever service that you're performing has to be there for when you're ready to go out in the cabin. And these are skills that are just kind of like drummed into you throughout your years of flying, that you will take into your other lines of work as well. Key.
I totally agree with that. Again, it's I always like to arrive early. It's nice to sit down, have a relax, and have a coffee before your sort of day starts, just to get your thoughts together. More important as a leader as well, and a manager, but always puts you in good stead for anything in life, even family engagements. You know, it's good to turn up a bit earlier rather than late. Right. Okay. Number 14, brand presentation skills and attention to detail. I mean, again, something in the airline I particularly work in. They're very big, very, very hot on this. But I'm guessing you can be your own brand as well. It's how you present yourself. But what's your interpretation of it, Arpad?
I think this is one of the key transferable skills that is very easy to overlook, the attention to detail. I mean, paying attention, being careful about the smallest of details, again, regardless of the airline that you're working for, it's one of the top qualities any cabin crew has. Basically, paying attention to brand consistency, things like uniform standards, personal conduct, presentation, your understanding of the fact that detail drives customer perception and experience, and ultimately this whole brand loyalty. We mentioned it earlier, you were the ambassador of the airline. I mean, you're probably more visible than the CEO, him or herself. So it's basically, it's again, no matter what industry you would like to transition or break into, this skill will be top of any employer's list of requirements. Basically, like this, the acute attention to detail will distinguish you from all the rest, basically, if you present it well. Basically, that's what.
And just remember, when you were on board that flight and you delivered your service and you put your little twist on it, you give it that little bit extra. Just remember those moments, and it's what stands out in the passengers, customers' mind, because it's different. It's not just, there's my drink. Can I have a drink? There you go. There's your drink. Boom, on your table. You might have done something different with simple things like your napkin, or you might have said something that was, different to like what another crew member might have done. Attention to detail, just those tiny little bits of attention to detail that were noticed by the passenger, that were noticed by whoever was on board that aircraft. And it just sets you aside from everybody else, and they'll go away and they'll be like, wow, this crew member, they were amazing, that they were absolutely brilliant in the service delivery, that the attention to detail was fantastic, tiny little things, and they're noticed, and you can demonstrate that in so many other roles. Stand out.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm absolutely loving this, Arpad. Right, take it to number 15, which is something that wouldn't even happen probably a generation ago, even. The social media and marketing skills. Yep. So this is almost a new industry that we can sort of learn from the youngsters. I mean, my girls are a whiz at sort of social media. They're so quick on it. I'm learning and getting faster, but this is a young person's game. In my eyes, what's your take on it?
I mean, social media skills, very important. Again, I think it's being savvy with things like Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever it is that you can think of. A lot of crew, by the way, from my experience, have already a very strong social media presence. They are sharing their highlights of their just lifestyle. They have a lot of followers on Instagram and other platforms. A lot of pilots are doing the same as well. Basically, they're blogging, building their influence, their presence. Basically, they start. Some of them are collaborating with brands, and they really promote products. They have this side hustle, by the way. So it's basically like the ability to sell, very similar to that. Online marketing skills, basically, they're very likely that they're going to be sought out in other non-flying roles as well. So this is one. It's a bonus one. I think it's not one of the core transferable skills, but it's something that, as you said, especially the young generation, I think this is a no-brainer to include.
Yeah, and I've just got to say as well, to add on to that with social media, it opens up so many doors with you if you are looking to progress your career or expand in whatever area of employment, career-wise, whatever pathway you're going down. Social media is such a powerful tool. We've discovered that over the last 2 years, because 2 years ago we weren't even a thing. Myself and Trevor, not just crew, wasn't born, and look what we have been able to go down the journey that we've kind of gone down, Trevor. It's unbelievable. Social media before this, all I had was Facebook. Now it's like there's about 5, 6 different types of social media now that we're still getting used to, but like we are a lot more confident with the social media now. And without social media, we would never have been able to have interviews with CEOs of airlines, to open the doors to people who can offer the services to a broad area of people who have been looking for support and encouragement in that transition from being cabin crew into other airlines. Social media has been able to provide that invaluable service.
As I say, Arpad, as you sort of said there, crew have individual crew literally got their own channels and become influencers in their own right. That's what I mean. It's been massive. I mean, I'm still getting to grips with this TikTok and these other ones. Again, it's just become such a wide expanse of influencing, meeting people. It is mind blowing. And I say, I'm still trying to get to grips. My sort of daughters help me out when they can. I mean, Simon, I say, I've got to admit, you've become quite a whiz on the social media. It was something you didn't even probably know about. TikTok. There's only so much dancing we can do, especially with my arthritis. But I try not to do that. But it's been amazing to say that these 15 points you've given, Arpad, have been amazing. I know I said it earlier, but it has encompassed everything we've been sort of talking about over these last couple of years. We're sort of coming to the end now, but I know you know you're a recruitment sort of specialist, an executive sort of recruiter as well. What interview tips? I mean, we've talked about the knowledge, but what interview tips would you give anyone looking to change not only their sort of career, but their sort of lifestyle? I mean, they're not changing jobs, but if they wanted to go into sort of possibly one of the professions, we're talking about transition of crew here. It doesn't have to be just cabin crew, but flight deck as well. You want to go into a new career. What tips would you give to people looking to change?
I think an open mind would be the number one, being nimble, agile, adaptable, basically using those skills that you gained on the job. I think it's basically realize that there are other roles, other industries out there that are growing, and not having such a difficult time as aviation still has. So it's and also when you are complying your or composing your resume or CV, use the language of your target audience. Get rid of all the industry specific jargon, acronyms. A lot of crew CVs include things like aviation specific stuff that no one really understands outside of the industry. Get rid of it And be mindful that basically when you're crafting your CV or LinkedIn profile or any other career marketing tool, use language that is familiar in the industry where you're going to, versus the one that you are about to leave, basically. So it's really important that you realize that basically the whole world is not aviation. There are other sectors out there, and you really need to make sure that you present your skills in a way that is understandable to the outside world.
Yeah,
that would be the top one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, we're coming to the end of that site. If in fact, Arpad, I'll ask you in a minute where people can contact you or follow you on any social media. But Si, any closing comments from you, sir?
Listen, thank you so much, Arpad. It's like I've loved going through these 15 points, and your background is amazing. And thank you so much for your time and for sharing this to everybody, because so many questions still come through now, even though like we're almost 2-year-old. People are asking for advice when it comes to interviews, what they need to say. Have you got any tips? I'm sure, without a doubt, going through these 15 points and just taking each one and having a good example of when you've displayed those qualities is invaluable. Absolutely. And once you get past the CV process and you get that one-on-one interview, you can come up with so many different scenarios. You really can. You can come up with them scenarios when you're asked a question, you've got the examples there and then, and just be yourself. Just absolutely be yourself, because they will buy into you, and they'll buy into the amazing person that you are, and all them experiences that you've undergone on the plane, and it'll put your head and shoulders above everybody else, because I can guarantee, like maybe it's in the healthcare profession, might be a little bit different way you can display like how special you are because you're adapting with so many different people. But the airline, to me, is put you in so many different situations that nobody else can go through. You're flying all around the world. You're meeting so many different people from all walks of life, and you've experienced so much more than what anybody else has. You've got what it takes. You've got those examples. You've got the experience. Go through those 15 points, and I promise you, you will have an outstanding chance in any interview that you go for.
Yeah, we'll put all those in the description, both on the audio version and the video version for YouTube as well. Listen, Arpad, where can everyone find you if they want to make contact?
I think LinkedIn is probably the best place. Arpad Szakal. If you put it in, there aren't that many Arpads out there. I normally share these quick tips on LinkedIn really on a daily basis. So snippets of info on things like job search, career transitions, interviewing, assessment centers, behavioral interviews, things like that. That's the only thing that I would add, is that as crew, you have an advantage because you know what it is to tackle behavioral interview questions. Tell me about the time when you did that. Tell me about the time when you had to deal with a situation like that. So, because all the airlines are using that, whether it's BA, Virgin, EasyJet, whichever you're working for or have been working for, that's what you need to expect, because that's what everyone is applying at the moment.
Yeah.
So examples for each of these. It's great to be aware of them, but you really need to have a couple of specific examples to demonstrate. So don't just show, or don't just tell. Show.
Yeah. It's good to have a good bank of questions in your mind. Well, Arpad, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to say goodbye to the viewers now. Hang on where you are just while we end this show. Everyone else, join Simon and I in a couple of minutes for the summary, and hopefully we'll see you all again soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Arpad. That was really, I think, one of the best episodes we've ever had. Simon mentioned at the beginning of the show about some of the quality, but even while we were interviewing him, I stopped even thinking about the quality of the video and listened to the content he put in. But we're going to have list this all down below. Also, we're going to link him in with the LinkedIn. He's written several papers as well, several about women in aviation. I'll bring Simon in quickly just so we can have a quick summary of that episode. Simon,
how good was that, man?
yeah, that was pretty cool. I say, I mean, I was watching the time when we were interviewing him, and there's so much more that we could have talked about there. And as I said, I know I said it during the episode, but he literally encompassed everything that we've been talking about on Not Just Crew for the last couple of years, and he has put them in a very, very neat package. Yeah. So, what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, amazing. The way he kind of delivered each point step by step. And then we were able to give him examples. And I think he quite enjoyed that as well, because we were kind of like, through his points, we were able to express exactly what we had gone through at those moments in time. We've also, I mean, we've had Paul Tizard, don't forget, who's Ali Tasker Murphy. We've had Heidi Cole. We've got so many people within our group who offer the support with Not Just Crew for us. And Arpad is just one of the many supporters and influencers in our group who are there to assist and help you guys out. If you need any support, that's what we're here for. We can take you through all these things that you're finding quite difficult to express, and we're able to kind of like put things a little bit more clearer when you do go for that role.
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, I mean, he did encompass everything we have been talking about. And I say, I'm so glad you mentioned the others, such as Annie and Paul, who did a great LinkedIn presentation of us. So watch that in the on the YouTube videos somewhere. And Heidi Cole, presently working on a project for us as well. And there's some exciting news to come out, from her in the near future. But no, that's been really good. As you know, I've had a really bad cold. Definitely wasn't codive. So I mean, that's and he sparked my day up. So I'm not. I look as rough, but not feeling as rough as I
should have sparked you out.
Yeah, should have done. But no, I'm hoping we're going to have him on again, because I'd really like to discuss some of the other papers that he's written. Right. Okay.
Pilots as well. So yeah, absolutely. Well remembered. Arpad's done papers about obviously pilots and women in aviation as well. So this is something that we want to explore. So listen, if you've got any stories, if you're a female pilot and you've got any stories and you're willing to come on the show, then just give us a shout. Just drop a little message in the comments box, or go to hello-you@notjustcrew.com.
Absolutely. Right. Okay. That's as us wrap for another week. And well, we'll be back on next week with another exciting episode. See you guys then.
See you guys.
Bye.
Oh, there's my aeroplane gone flying.